everyone, and welcome back to Ice Talk with Hannah. I'm your host, Hannah, and today we are going to be discussing all things Grand Prix Final. I have tons of thoughts, and this Grand Prix Final was full of surprises, and also there were some moments that were pretty predictable, but for the most part, I feel like it was a wild ride. And skating has been exciting the past few years because of that. So let's dive right into it. We're going to start with the women as usual. Now, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but congratulations to Amber Glenn for winning Japanese Nationals. Yes, I had to say one joke like that. I have actually been living for all of the jokes. I think my favorite one was posted by Amber herself on TikTok, where she did a video of that sound where it's like me and you and us and your friend Steve. You know that one? And it's like Reno and Hannah and Wakaba and Kaori and Monet and Amber. And it was just really funny. Anyway, that's probably the only time I'm going to use this joke. Maybe. I can't make any promises. I probably will again. But congratulations, Amber, for skating two fairly clean programs. I think this is a good spot for her to be in. Now, interestingly enough, obviously, I think it would have been a very different outcome if we had a lot more clean skates here. We just didn't, which I'm going to talk about in a moment with the other skaters. And because she has that triple axel, her base value is just by default a little bit higher than everyone else's. Although Hannah does go for the triple axel in the free skate, Amber is the only one who not only has the triple axel in her arsenal, but continues to land it. I wouldn't be surprised if she adds a second to her free skate at some point, maybe this season or at least for the Olympic season. And she skated really well. Her short program was definitely a little bit tight. She had like a fluke trip after that triple axel, and I think that's where she kind of hurt her back. She kind of tweaked it, which I get it, girl. Amber is 25, I'm 28, and I've been dealing with chronic like back pain and hip pain and knee pain for a very long time, and she is still competing. I stopped jumping 5 years ago because of that chronic pain, and she not only is still doing it, but she's doing it at such a high level, so she has to be careful with her body, and just the smallest of things can cause pain. So I think that trip did give her a little bit of back pain, and also she mentioned that it kind of freaked her out, so she was definitely a little bit tight, but I feel like this is a good sign for her, that she can openly talk about the fact that that trip did freak her out a little bit, that she was in a little bit of back pain. I think Amber, even just one season ago, would have completely fallen apart. But for her to still go out there and squeak out these jumps, yes, she two-footed both of the other jumps, so she got some negative GOEs on some stuff. It's such a good sign for her. And before I move on from her short program, I just want to say, I know a lot of people disagreed with her being ahead of Monet in the short program. I want to remind everyone that Amber's base value is automatically a little over 4 points higher than Monet's just because of that triple axel. So she by default has that lead, and she only beat Monet out by less than a point. So I think it was exactly where they needed to be. I know Monet had to the eye a cleaner skate, but keep in mind Monet did get the exclamation mark on her Lutz and the Q on her flip, which cost her a lot of points. Yes, Amber did get a couple judges give her a positive GOE on that triple loop that was two-footed. However, in the grand scheme of things, those 3 positive GOEs did not affect a lot, considering she still got negative GOE on that jump, and the highest one, which was a +3, which is kind of wild, got thrown out. Okay, so it makes sense still that Amber ended up on top when you look at these numbers, and that's kind of that. People were really complaining about her being in first, and I think that she was rightfully in first. Every single skater out there made mistakes. Yes, Monet's was the most unobvious, but when you look at the protocols, when you have the skating knowledge that a lot of these people that are arguing about it don't have, it is very clear why Amber still won the short program here. Then as far as the free skate goes for Amber, wow. The best triple axel I have ever seen her do. That thing was gorgeous enough that I was questioning if she accidentally doubled it, because she had free time at the end. Like, there was a little bit of that last little start to split out of the jump before you even landed. It wasn't even close. It was gorgeous. That was the best triple axel she has ever done, at least in competition that we've seen. I'm sure she does that kind of triple axel on practice ice all the time. Outside of that, her free skate was good. It was another fight. She did say right after the end that she is exhausted. I don't blame her. This is actually her first time qualifying for the final. So this back-to-back-to-back competing for her, especially because she competed at Lombardia as well before the Grand Prix started. She's already got 4 competitions under her belt this season. Side note, they're all gold medals. She just said too that the Lombardia trophy that she won earlier this season was the first gold medal that she's ever won internationally. And now she has 4 back-to-back-to-back. And 2 of those, she beat out Kaori Sakamoto, the reigning and 3-time world champion. So Amber's having just a thrill of a season. I'm really hoping that continues. Outside of that, Amber's free skate, while it was a little bit tight, she still got the job done. The only real big mistake here was the double Salchow, which we did see her fall on in the warm-up, which is a little bit uncharacteristic of her. And then the second triple flip was 2-footed and called Q. Outside of that, everything was super well done. Her component scores are also going up a little bit, which I definitely agree with. And that's part of just getting that reputation as a consistent skater, which is crazy to say, but she's been fairly consistent. No, she has still yet to go out and skate 2 perfectly clean programs, but honestly, what she's doing now is enough for her to set herself up well to go to Worlds, to skate 2 clean programs, and possibly win that title in Boston at home, which would be insane. Overall, this was a very good showing for her, and her placement here is definitely going to help motivate her and hopefully get that reputation moving forward still as she heads into a home Worlds. Of course, she does have to do well at Nationals to get on that world team. I think at this point, Amber is a lock. She could pull an Ashley Wagner at Nationals and finish 1 spot away from the world team and still go. I think U.S. figure skating would be completely stupid to not send her at this point, because I think with Isabeau being a big question mark right now, where is she? What is happening to her? What is she injured? Is she going through some kind of family issues? No one really knows what's going on with her because she hasn't made any statements or posts at all. Amber is really the only one going into Nationals that to me is a lock for that world team. So good for her. Super happy for her. Loved the camaraderie between her and the other Japanese skaters. I love specifically between her and Kaori. I think it's because they both are older. They're in their mid-20s. I think they have this like connection that goes deeper than the language barrier that they have, and it's really sweet. They just seem to get along really, really well, and I love that about it. All right, second place was Mone Chiba. Now, Mone is the person that I think had, probably to the untrained eye, the cleanest 2 skates. She skated very well here, and she's been very good all season. Like, she's just been very solid all season. In her short program, she did get an unclear edge on her Lutz, which affected her GOE, and then she got the Q call on her flip, which also affected her GOE. She ended up getting negative GOE on that one because of it. Outside of that, she skated very, very well. It looked very solid. It definitely looked to be the most clean. Her component scores were also coming in at about 0.5 point less than Amber, which this might be controversial. I kind of agree with that. So now that I've talked about Amber having the higher base value, which makes sense as to why she would just kind of automatically be ahead of Mone at this point, I want to talk about component scores, because let me get something very straight. I love the Japanese women, and I love, love, love their skating. Almost all of them have just such wonderful speed and soft knees and control over their edges and just wonderful skating skills. However, the component scores, skating skills is only 1/3 of that. There's also the presentation mark, and there's also the composition mark. Now, composition, I don't really agree with that being a mark for a skater, because that really has more to do with the choreography of the program. And while the skater needs to execute the choreography well, it is really up to the choreographer and coach and how they do it. So I feel like that mark itself is more like 60% their coaching team and 40% them. And I just don't really love that that's after we like removed a bunch of stuff from PCS that one remained, because it just feels a little weird because it's not really fully up to the skater, but that is what it is. The presentation mark is the big one here. Mone is a beautiful skater with stunning skating skills and beautiful choreography. However, something that I noticed, especially at this event, probably because she was right after skaters like Kaori and Amber and Wakaba, Monet has a very immature presentation. And what I mean by that, and this is not like to drag her at all, I'm a huge fan of Monet, and I think that she is pretty much a lock for the world team at this point. But she has this smile on her face that very much reminds me of the smile I had on my face when I was like preliminary, pre-juve, juve, maybe intermediate. And that is the smile that your coaches teach you and kind of force upon you when you first start skating in order for you to look somewhat pleasant when you skate. It is ingrained in our heads very early on. You gotta smile when you skate, you gotta smile when you skate. And it's only when we start to really mature and get used to our bodies out there and our faces that we can start to actually connect to the music with our faces. And I feel like Monet is just missing that at this point. She connects well with the choreography and the skating skills, but when it comes to her face, she looks very juvenile. And I think that being her lowest mark in the short program and in the free skate, that was just enough to kind of push her behind Amber. Do I think Amber deserved higher skating skills mark than Monet? No. But at least the presentation mark is there, and when you look at it as like a full picture, you can realize that like the scrutinizing of those small little tiny details really it doesn't matter. Monet is a lovely skater. I think she just needs a couple more years to experience the senior level. I think this is only her second season, and I think that she's going to be lovely. She just needs to connect with the music on a presentation level, not just have wonderful choreography and skating skills. She needs to do that extra little bit, and then I'll be down for being really upset over her component scores whenever she's underscored all day long. In Monet's free skate, she had a fairly good skate. The only real issue was the triple loop where she landed on a quarter and of course almost fell on that one, so she ended up getting negative 2.24 GOE on that, and that jump was only worth about 2.66 points. Keep in mind that Amber's triple loop at the end of her program was valued after GOE at 6.65, so she gave up a lot of points there when she was already at a deficit to Amber. And then for Monet's Lutzes, both of them were called Unclear Edge. So the first one still got a positive GOE just because of how well done everything else was within that jump. And then the second one, the triple Lutz double toe double loop, did end up getting negative 0.17 on it. So those just being little bits and pieces of points that she's giving away. It's not a huge amount of points, but it's just enough with the deficit already that she is with Amber having that triple axel. It makes sense once again that she would end up there second place to Amber. She was about a point behind her in the technical score, and then about a point and a half behind her in PCS. Would I have preferred to see it a little bit closer in PCS? Yes. I think when it comes to skating skills, Amber's a little bit weaker on that side. However, she is still very strong with the presentation and the composition, so it kind of evens out, but that's where it ended up. Overall, Monet should be very proud of how she skated here. I think she's proven that she can be very reliable this season, and I think that'll carry her through to Japanese nationals that at the time of recording this are happening in about a week. Now, third place, this was the big surprise, Kaori Sakamoto. And this is after a surprise fourth place finish in the short program for her, where she scored just a 63.98. I think that is one of the lowest scores she's put up in a few years. Kaori skated a beautiful double axel as per usual. Some judges gave her a +5, which of course is the maximum amount of GOE you can give someone. Her Lutz did get an unclear edge, which costed her in GOE. She ended up getting a .034 taken off of it. And then, of course, in her triple flip, triple toe combo, we gave up a lot of points here because not only did we fall on that, why do I keep saying we? She gave up a lot of points on this because not only did she fall on it, but she also got an under rotation call on both of the jumps, meaning that she got 70% base value of both of those jumps as well. So she just missed out on a ton of points. There's also the automatic negative 5 on the GOE that all the judges had to give her. Looking at her protocol too, she only got level 3s on her flying camel spin, her layback spin, her step sequence, and then she got a level 4 on her change foot combination spin, but she got a V on that. So She really just gave up a lot of points on everything. It was a pretty sloppy short program for her. She still scored the highest in PCS, which I agree with. I think she has the best present skating skills, presentation, and composition of the group out there. It's one of the reasons why she is the reigning 3-time world champion. But it was just a not great short program for her. I'm sure she'll be totally fine. She tends to be a skater that is kind of all over the place throughout the season, if I'm remembering correctly. What matters for her is just going to Worlds and skating well there, and she will win if she skates well. Unless Amber skates perfectly clean, then I think Amber can still challenge for that gold, even if Kaori skates perfect as well. Now, after a disappointing short program, Kaori was able to move up in the free skate to 3rd overall to get that bronze medal. She had a pretty decent free skate. It started out really well. The only issues is she did get 3 under rotation calls. Now, remember, under rotation calls are a much bigger deal than Q calls because under rotation means that you get that 70% base value of the jump. So you're losing a lot of points plus the negative GOE. So she got an under rotation call on the triple toe on her triple flip, triple toe combo, and an under rotation and an unclear edge call on her triple lutz in the triple lutz double toe combo. And then a under rotation call in the final triple loop. I'm not sure I really agree with that one. I think the judges are being overly strict this season. Well, not judges. The technical panels are, which is okay. They're being fairly consistent with it. I just feel like that triple loop was not under rotated. When I look back in slow motion, I don't really see it. At least it should have been called a quarter in my opinion. What's also interesting, because of the timing of this jump, she still got positive grade of execution on that triple loop, even though it got an under rotation, which is kind of insane. Outside of that, she was first place in the PCS with 71 total. She was about a point higher than Amber, about a point and a half higher than Amber. And then she still got a V on her change foot combination spin level 4 again. Everything else was a level 4, so she fixed the levels in this situation. This was overall just a much better free skate with the 137, so that's like a very good number that can get you on the podium at Worlds as well. She just needs to fix up some of the messiness. Again, I think she's a lock for Japanese nationals, just like Mona Chiba is. They would be insane to not send her. She would have to literally come in 10th there for them to even consider not sending her, and I think in that case she would still go, just because she is the reigning 3-time world champion. She did also say that she's focused on the Olympics right now, so I don't even know if she's really trying to win this Worlds. I don't want her to just give up per se, but I'm interested to see kind of what her mindset will be heading into Worlds. Okay, 4th place was Wakaba Higuchi, a personal favorite of mine. And she rose from 6th after the short program. Yes, she was in last place after the short program to end up 4th overall. The short program at this event was just a mess. We were 0 for 6 as far as clean programs goes, and Wakaba just had the biggest mistake because she fell on the first part of her combo, and the way she has her program set up, her solo triple is before it, so she has no way of making up those points, so she just has to swallow missing out on the combo. She got a Q on the Lutz, and she took the fall with the negative grade of execution and the 1-point deduction. That adds up so fast, so much faster than Kaori's fall on hers, because she at least got that combination in. So this just kind of pushed Wakaba to the bottom of the pack. She also got an unclear edge call on her triple flip, but everything else was very well done. Beautiful GOE on that gorgeous double axel. Everything else level 4 in the short program. Her component scores are also slowly climbing higher, which is nice. She was actually 3rd best in component scores here, just behind Kaori and Amber. I'm liking where that is going. I still think she deserves more because while she also lacks a little bit of presentation compared to someone like Amber, she has it better than Monet, I would say, because she has a lot more experience. Wakaba is also in her 20s. She's been around a lot longer. She has that connection. And I'm not talking about when it comes to presentation. It doesn't mean that every skater has to be like Ashley Wagner level acting, because it's different for every skater, and just like the Japanese culture in general is not very over the top like that, so it can be just difficult for them to even do something like that. I just want to see connection on the face and through the fingertips, and Wakaba has that better than Monet, so I think her slotting ahead of Monet in component scores was correct in this short program. even though her short program was so messy with that fall. But she was able to make up for it a little bit. Of course, not enough to get on that podium. However, scoring a 134 in the free skate, that is her second best free skate of the season so far. And she overall did very good. She did double the planned triple Salchow and then got an unclear edge on her triple flip at the end. She also gave up a level on her flying camel spin of only being a level 3. But outside of that, she looked very, very good. This was a very solid skate for her. When there were so many under rotation calls, so many Q calls, she really showed up and skated very well. Now, I do think the fact that she was in 6th after the short and skated first here did affect her components a little bit, as she ended up slotting in 4th in component scores instead of 3rd. They did give Monet the higher score here, but I still think this fares well for her. I think that the 3rd spot for Japanese nationals is going to be a bloodbath, but I think Wakaba has proven that she will be the highest likely person, in my opinion, to gain that spot on Worlds and round out the 3 women going. I still love her free skate. I know some people don't love it because of the way it starts. I like the change. I like the build in the free skate. I feel like so many programs this season are missing some kind of build, like a climax or something. Amber's, I think, is actually a little bit of a victim of this. The music of Amber's free skate is gorgeous, but there's no climax. It just kind of fizzles out at the end. Wakaba just builds and builds and builds, and it makes me excited. It gives me chills, and it's great. And also, a side note, Kaori's free skate has definitely grown on me. It's still not my favorite vehicle for her, but I do think that the more comfortable she's gotten with it, the more she's been able to perform it, and the better this free skate has turned out for her. Wakaba's free skate, though, I think is still my favorite of all 6 of these women. I would love to see her skate that to its full potential at Worlds. It would be just so stunning, and the Boston audience would be so behind her and cheering her on. So I really hope she can go to Japanese nationals here, not be too tired yet, and just skate really, really well and end up on that world team. Okay, 5th place, Hana Yoshida. So Hana was actually in 3rd after the short program. Interestingly enough, though, she was in a virtual tie with 4th, 5th, and 6th. They were all about 1 point from each other, with her having a 64, Kaori having a 63, Reno having a 62, and Wakaba having a 61. It's kind of interesting how that turned out. But she had a fairly decent short program. She had a Q and an unclear edge on the triplets triple toe, and I believe she stepped out of that, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't go back and look, and I'm looking at her protocol, but she struggled a little bit with that, and then her triple loop also got a Q call. However, she got her levels on everything else with level 4, and then her component scores were decent. They were on the lower end. I think when she skates next to all these other Japanese women, it's sadly apparent that she has a little bit lower quality in the skating skills and the composition. I think her presentation is actually quite good, and I guess her composition is quite good. I think she's packaged really well. I just don't feel the connection that I'm hoping for with her, but that could just be a level of getting more used to that program. Now, she was 3rd, but she did end up coming in 5th in the free skate and 5th overall. She went for the triple axel and landed it, just a little turnout. She got a Q on that. That's another one I'm not quite sure I agree with. I felt like it looked quite clean, but the technical panel felt otherwise. The triple flip got an unclear edge call, and then interestingly enough, the triple lutz triple toe also got an unclear edge call, along with the second triple lutz getting an edge call, unclear edge call, and a Q. So she just gave up a lot of small points here and there. Overall, she skated quite well in the free skate. She was just 5th in components, and she gave up a lot of points on small things because she got a lot of small calls that still affect you big time when so many skaters are skating as well as they did in the free skate. The short program was a mess. The free skate wasn't necessarily clean, but they were all fighting and they all did quite well. So she will have to take 5th after getting 3rd last year. I think that she definitely still has a chance to be on that world team. She was on the world team last year and she has that experience, but she has to be very careful because there are many other skaters this season that are making their name known that could gobble up that third spot from her if she makes the slightest mistake at Japanese nationals. I do like her. I just think that her skating skills are a bit weaker than most of her fellow Japanese women, so she's gonna have to really fight her way through at Japanese nationals to try and get that world team berth. And finally, I've been talking about the women for quite a while. 6th place was Rino Matsuike. I love her. Her skating skills are gorgeous, and she has a connection to the music. She genuinely looks like she enjoys the music, and she's not just smiling because she has to, but she's smiling because she wants to. That's the big difference between her and Monet, I would say. However, she is just having a hard time skating clean this season. Once again, in the short program, she fell on that triple Lutz, which got called downgraded, meaning that she got the base value of a double Lutz, plus an unclear edge call, plus the fall. That was just a big point loser. She did land her triple flip, triple toe, which was a nice plus, and she got level 4s on everything except for the change foot combo spin that came in at a level 3. I don't know if she needs to change her short program. I don't know if she needs to talk to a sports therapist about it, but I think she's losing out on her opportunity to get on that world team, because even if she finally puts it together at nationals and skates it clean, I think the Japanese Skating Federation is going to look at what she's been doing all season and say, hey, we could send her to worlds, and it's more likely for her to make those mistakes than not. So she has yet to put out a clean short program. She's had disastrous short programs. So I worry for her. She is young, so I think she has quite a few years to come, but that was definitely tough. And then in the free skate, it looked not bad, but she got a Q on her opening loop, an unclear edge on her triple Lutz, and a Q on the triple toe in her opening triple Lutz, triple toe, double toe combo. Then she got an unclear edge on her Lutz, her second Lutz. Then she got an under rotation on the double axel in her double flip, double axel combo, so she gave up a lot of points there. And then she got a Q on her triple sow. So she only had 1, 2, 3 triple jumps called clean, and even then 2 of those were an unclear edge, so she still lost out on the GOEs. There's lots of minus GOEs on her protocol here, and her component scores was 5th. Hana Yoshida's was 6th in the components. So do I necessarily agree with low component scores for her? No, I think she should definitely be in the higher range because I think that's her strong point. I think she's good in all 3. Like, she's a very solid all-around skater in those components. However, the more mistakes she makes, that lower those component scores go. So this was just a little bit messy, even though it didn't look that messy right off the bat, and she will have to end up in 6th place. It doesn't bode super well for her heading into Japanese nationals. I just want her to go out there and skate clean and see what happens. However, I think even if she does skate 2 clean programs, the likelihood of her going to worlds is going to be fairly low. So that was the Japanese nationals. I mean, the Grand Prix final women's event. So just to catch up on what my predictions was, I had Kaori 1st, Amber 2nd, Monet 3rd, Wakaba 4th, Rino 5th, and Hana 6th. So I predicted the podium, but they were all in a different spot. Wakaba I got correct, and then I switched Hana and Rino. So I was quite a bit off there, but I'll take it because Amber winning was a nice consolation prize. I don't know what to call that. Okay, I actually want to talk about ice dance next because I think that's actually going to be the one I take quite a lot of time on outside of the other 2. I'm not going to recap each one as in-depth as I just did the women, though. The women is just what I have the most interest in because I am formerly a singles competitor in the women's event. So ice dance was very shocking to me. The 2 main reasons this was shocking to me is that Maddie and Evan won the event by 13 points, 13 and a half points really, and that Gilles and Poirier, which people were talking about them possibly winning the entire thing because of someone on the tech panel, I believe, they ended up in 5th. So Maddie and Evan, they look really, really solid. I'm not gonna lie. I think that this was my first time really enjoying both programs. The rhythm dance, I've kind of enjoyed the entire time. I know that's a hot take, but I love her dress, first of all. Like, that dress is gorgeous, and the red on her, stunning. But just in general, I find the rhythm dance to be very fun, and it kind of stands out in a very, very mushy rhythm dance theme. Their free dance is still not my favorite thing on the planet. However, I've grown to like it because I feel like as they get more used to it and a little bit more smooth with it, they look really, really solid. They definitely were obviously slower than a lot of the skaters, but kind of like how I mentioned in the component scores, skating skills is only 1/3 of them. Speed is not everything in skating skills. Yes, it is a big deal, and having speed without really trying is a sign of skating skills, but there are many, many other things to judge skating skills on. They don't have a ton of crossovers in their program, which is something that I noticed. And while, yes, they skate a bit slower than the others, their full packaging, their performance, everything about them is just like honed to the hilt. Like, they are experts in ice dancing. And while they might not be as wonderful as Davis and White and Virtue and Moyer were, they still have definitely made a name for themselves. And I think because of how big of a gap they had between them and the silver medalists here, they will easily go into Worlds at home and win that thing easy and be solidly ready to win an Olympic title next year. I want to talk about Piper and Paul for a moment here because they would have easily won the silver medal here if he hadn't just clipped the boards. I mean, that's really all that happened. His heel hit the board and he went down. And in ice dance, one fall that's a death nail. Unlike in single skating when, everyone might fall or half the group might fall. In ice dance, if you fall, you're going to probably be in last place, especially if it's on an element like they did. They missed out on a level because of it, and then, of course, they got the negative GOE on it, and they got the 1-point deduction. It's just such a death nail in ice dance because ice dance is really all about the levels and the GOE. So when you get something that has such awful GOE, you're done for. They did come in second place in the free dance, but surprisingly, we're still 5 points behind Maddie and Evan in the free dance. I will say, when I watched their free dance, I could tell that Paul was super tight and nervous. That man has now fallen twice at 2 consecutive events. And I could tell he was just terrified that he might do that again. It just didn't have the same freedom that Piper and Paul tend to skate with. So I think that definitely did affect their score. However, it's still interesting that they ended up 5 points behind Maddie and Evan. I think that was a huge statement by the judges in the technical panel of who they're kind of putting their cards on for Worlds. And there was still a question if Piper and Paul could kind of usurp them after winning the free dance at Worlds last year. But I think that they've given up all of their chances. Even if they don't fall again for the next 3 years, I think Maddie and Evan will continue to beat them. Okay, the other two on the podium, silver was Charlene Guinard and Marco Fabri, and third was Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson. So this is something that I've been thinking about all season. Marco and Charlene and Lila and Lewis are not getting great scores. Both their free dances, I think it's clear the judges are not on board. And Lila and Lewis at least have that second half of the program where it builds and gets exciting. And I'm sure the audience in Boston will be super, super into it. But it kind of relies on the audience getting into it like they kind of always have because their skating skills are not good. Charlene and Marco, on the other hand, I want to love their free dance. I want to love it because they're doing something different, but it's not good. At least their costumes are better, but the judges hate it. And it's clear they are scoring so much lower than they normally would this time of year. But the problem is because Piper and Paul fell, Charlene and Marco and Lila and Lewis had some of their better placements here, with Charlene and Marco happily winning the silver and Lila and Lewis winning their first Grand Prix final medal. And because they seem so happy and they find these competitions such big successes, I feel like they're not willing to put in the work to fix these free dances. I think this is actually kind of a death nail for them, because even though you could look at Lila and Lewis and say, oh my gosh, this season has just been a dream for them, there is something to be said about the fact that they are the only ones continually going out and skating clean. However, that's not super often. You cannot count on someone making a huge mistake at Worlds. And their scoring is just not that good this season, but they continue to just have these like amazing results because they continue to get lucky. They've gotten lucky at every single event they've had. Someone at every single event they have been at that would normally be ahead of them has fallen. So what's going to happen when they compete at an event where no one falls? I could see them still falling behind Marjorie and Zachary. I think in Boston, Marjorie and Zachary are going to have a leg up over them. I think people prefer their programs. I think Marjorie and Zachary were severely lowballed in the rhythm dance here. And I could see them honestly ending up fourth, and then if anyone decides to make mistakes, in third. Like, they could overtake Charlene and Marco for all I know, because these judges are not behind these free dances, and yet they're not fixing them, they're not changing them, because they're blind to the fact that they're scoring lower because they're getting good results. But they're only getting good results because of fluke incidents. So I don't know. I don't think these are good programs for either of these teams, but I just don't know if they're going to really change it up. So Worlds might be interesting. I think Maddie and Evan are so clearly going to be the first place winners there, and then the rest, Piper and Paul, I think are silver. I think there's going to be an interesting battle for third, however. Overall, this event was very exciting. I felt bad for Piper and Paul. I would have liked to have seen them still win the silver medal here. Of course, my predictions were Maddie and Evan first, Piper and Paul second, Charlene and Marco third, Marjorie and Zachary fourth, Lila and Lewis fifth, and Yevgenia and Jeffrey in sixth. So I got bookends correct. The rest were all jumbled up. Okay, we're going to speed run through pairs really quick. Pairs is probably the discipline I'm the least interested in. However, this one was still pretty good. I just want to mention that I'm really proud of Ellie and Danny, especially proud of Ellie landing that throw triple lutz in the free skate. Danny doesn't usually fall on the side-by-side, so I don't really know what happened there. However, them scoring a 69, a 129, and a 198 total with the mistakes they still made there is still really good signs for them. I just really want to see them put together two solid programs, and I think that might happen at Worlds. They seem to be working their way towards there. I really wanted Riku and Ryuichi to win. I think we all know that, but they definitely had a rough go in that free skate. This was probably one of the worst skates I've seen them have in quite a while. So I hope they just got that out of their system and can kind of coast through nationals, because I think there's only 2 teams competing there, so they're going to Worlds. And then they can solidly just rest and then train well for Worlds, and that they'll be in top shape for that, because if they're in top shape for that, I think they will still win, depending on how Deanna and Maxim do, but I think they're still the favorites to win Worlds, in my opinion. I think they just had a rough day. Anastasia and Luca, I don't really like talking much about them because they are Russians pretending to not be Russian. Still don't really love their programs. I know everyone's gushing over them. I don't like them, mostly because I'm biased towards disliking them, but they came in third. Yeah. Sarah Conti and Niccolo Macci surprisingly came in fourth. I definitely had them in third. They just didn't skate that great. They were very tight and seemed very nervous, so they ended up fourth. And then Rebecca Gilardi and Filippo Ambrosini ended up sixth. They just had a rough go in the free skate, and then an okay short program. The short program was pretty good. All skaters skated quite well. It was the free skate that was a bit of a mess. And then finally, our winners, Minerva Fabian Haze and Nikita Volodin, they were just far and away better than the rest. They were the only team that seemed to be confident in themselves going into this event, seemed trained and ready, didn't seem exhausted. It's hard. I know the Grand Prix final is exhausting for these skaters. The back-to-back competing, let alone the traveling from continent to compete, I can only imagine. When you look at someone like Kaori Sakamoto, she literally competed in North America at the end of October, and then in Japan, in Asia in November, and then in Europe in December. That's tiring. So Minerva and Nikita, they still seemed like they had energy left in the tank. They looked really good here. I think she just put her hand down on the first side-by-sides, and that's the only mistake they made. So they are looking to maybe top the podium at Worlds. They definitely could do it, because Riku and Ryuichi and Deanna and Maxim have had an okay season so far. and they can definitely step up into that open door like they have been doing. Now for pairs, I believe my prediction was, where did I put them? I think I put Minerva and Nikita in first, Rico and Ryuichi in second. I put Sarah and Nicolo in third, Anastasia and Luca in fourth, Ellie and Danny in fifth, and Rebecca and Filippo in sixth. So the only thing I really messed up there is I switched the Italians and the Georgians. All right, last one, the men. So Ilya Malinin, not surprising, took the win here, about 11 points ahead of the silver medalist Yuma Kageyama. But interestingly enough, lost the free skate to Yuma Kageyama. So interesting event. So I first want to just say, Kevin Amos, he had a really rough short program. His free skate was okay, still made quite a few mistakes, so it was what it was. Mikhail Shidorov, in my opinion, deserved at least fourth here. I feel like the judges were a little bit harsh on the calls in the free skate for him to end up sixth in the free skate and fifth overall. That felt a little rude. And also when the audience booed the judges when he got his scores, I was like, yes, absolutely. Daniel Grassel... I might not be as much of a hater as some people on the internet. However, every time he skates, all that I can think of is the fact that everything about him, outside of the fact that he's doing really difficult quadruple jumps, he skates like he's in preliminary. Like, he still has the hands that skaters have when they just are new to being on the ice. Like, his component scores... because his choreography is basic AF, and I guess his presentation is fine, but how can you do a ballet program, never once point your toes and have the presentation mark be good? I don't understand the reasoning behind giving him anywhere close to the component scores that he gets, because he literally looks like skaters that I trained when they were learning like single axles, okay? I don't understand it. Anyway, yeah, he came in fourth. I did guess the podium correct here. I had Ilya first, Yuma second, and Shun third, and that's how it ended up. Shun skated very well here. In fact, he won the technical score in the free skate, but he did have the fall on the quad lutz in the short program, which kind of held him back. However, I don't think it really ended up affecting him because I don't think he would have been able to come close to catching Yuma. Even though Yuma did make the mistakes that he made, he of course fell on the quad sow in his short program, and then in the free skate he doubled the quad sow and doubled the planned triple loop at the second half of his triple flip triple loop combo. If he had nailed those quad sows, he would have won this event, which is kind of crazy considering to the untrained eye, Ilya looked clean. So I think Yuma can leave this event knowing that Ilya is someone he can beat at this point. But I do think Ilya is going to show up at Nationals and Worlds in a much better position than he was here. I think Ilya also looked a little bit tired. Even though he had more time in between his events and the Grand Prix final, I still feel like he looked a little bit exhausted. So hopefully the month and a half that he will have off, he'll be good to go. Overall, Yuma definitely won the event for me outside of, I guess, like out of enjoyment. I like both of his programs. His skating skills are second to none. I think Yuma is the whole package. It's just the base value of Ilya's programs are just so much higher. There's not really a way he can catch him if Ilya does skate clean. So let's talk about Ilya. I really like his short program. I think his short program is such a good vehicle for him. He seems to actually connect with this music. I still definitely find he's overscored in the PCS. He was 2 points higher than Yuma in the short program, which I just disagree with hardcore. I think they should be on the same, if anything, if not Yuma a little bit higher, because Yuma is much more well-rounded in all three, while Ilya has good presentation in the short program, but his choreography, his skating skills are severely lacking compared to Yuma. And to say that that is better than Yuma, we're just kidding ourselves. He did a very solid quad flip and triple axel in his short program, both getting quite a bit of GOE, and then he got a Q call on his quad lutz, triple toe, so that brought down his score a little bit because he got a negative grade of execution on something that he would usually get an additional 3 to 4 points on. Now, the story here, however, is the free skate. And I know a lot of people have talked about this, you probably already know, but he did not get one quad jump called clean. Quad flip, Q. Quad axel, Q. Quad lutz, under rotation and fall. Quad loop, under rotation. Quad lutz, Euler, triple sow, quadlets under rotation. Quad toe, triple toe, Q. Quad sow, triple axle, Q on the quad sow. Every single quad was not rotated here. And I actually agree with that. I remember watching. The quad axle was a little bit unknown. I have seen some more slow motion of it, and I think that it could have gone either way, so I don't really mind that they called it Q. He looked very tight here. I could tell all of his landings looked at least on the Q, and there were definitely, like, the quad loop was absolutely under rotated. Most of these I could see in real time. So he was definitely very tight. He does not have as good technique as Nathan did. I feel like Nathan never got calls because he was literally always so obviously clean. Ilya has always been a skater that I felt can let the under rotations kind of pop up if he's a little bit tight, and that's definitely what happened here. Now, outside of that, I know that this was a huge thing because he did all 6 quads. He did the toe, he did the sow, he did the loop, he did the flip, he did the Lutz, and he did the axle. This was like a major moment, but I think when he decided to try all 6, the choreography and the program just fell flat to me. I already feel like this free skate is not necessarily as good of a step in the right direction as his short program is. And on top of that, this skate particularly, he just did not care, and I could tell. He let everything go, and the choreography was pretty much crossover, 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 jump, crossover, 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 jump. Oh, maybe I'll make one face here to remind people that I actually can present. So he still has a lot of work to do. This was definitely not a great skate for him, even though it didn't seem like that bad of a skate. He did fall on the first quad Lutz too. I don't think it's a huge deal. I think he will still head into Worlds with an easy buffer that he will probably still win. But he needs to be careful because if he does this and then Yuma skates clean, unlike he did here, Yuma will beat him. It makes it a little bit more interesting, but I do think that Ilya is more likely to go out and just skate well. But as far as the predictions, so I did have the top 3 correct. And then I had, I believe, I had Kevin in 4th, Mikhail in 5th, and Daniel in 6th. So I had all 3 of those incorrect. But it wasn't too bad. I was definitely off on all 4 disciplines. This was a very exciting event with a lot of crazy things happening. But that is it for today's podcast. If you liked it, don't forget to download the podcast on wherever you're listening to it. You can also listen to this on YouTube if you so like. And if you do on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the podcast, and leave a comment your thoughts on the Grand Prix final. You can also follow me on social media. I am at Hannah Malay on Instagram and at Hannah Skates 96, HANA, on X. With that, thanks for listening in. I'll see you next week. Bye!